The Americas, also known as the New World, have been all the rage for the past 500 years, colonizing, the smallpox dying, and the US of A all occurring on these two continents, or continent as many of my Latin American viewers just love to mention to me. Now, while I might have a bias actually being born and raised in the New World, the Americas have played a major significant role in human civilization. No, not that the US helped spread Coca-Cola and McDonald's all over the globe, but the fact that these two continents simply existing determined everything for the Old World's future. These two landmasses defined Europe and were the driving force that gave Europeans the power to take over everything else. So that spurs the question, what if the Americas never existed? When Columbus set sail for his voyage, he expected that he could sail from Europe all the way to Asia by traveling west. Fortunately for him, unfortunately for the natives living there, he landed in the Caribbean. Without the Americas to be there, he would have sailed into the empty ocean and die before he could ever reach East Asia. But what if in this alternate timeline, there were no Americas? The New World simply never existed, and in their place would be water, which would unite the Pacific and the Atlantic into a super ocean. How would this affect all of human history? Well, here's one scenario. Since this is an alternate history channel and not a science channel, I'm not going to talk about the wide effects of two whole continents not existing and how that would affect global climate. Of course, human history is dominated by climate, but for the sake of time, we won't include that in this scenario. Simply put, for this video, the climate will stay the same. Nothing else changes except that the Americas are replaced by an ocean. So first, if the Americas didn't exist, then that means all the history that ever happened on those continents never did either. No Native Americans, no European conquest of the New World, and no United States of America. All of that history gone, which in the most part is a big negative to Europe. Before the 1500s, Europe's strength on the global scale was very small. Except for the Roman Empire expanding into the Middle East and Africa, no European entity ever expanded past the traditional realm of the European continent. Why was this? Well, many reasons. Feudalism made conflicts more local, and so European kingdoms would fight amongst themselves, generally isolated from the events in Asia or the Middle East. And Europe never gained a significant advantage against its neighbors, at least one that wouldn't result in a catastrophic loss. Africa's diseases and geography made it impossible for European countries to try to invade, as all of their troops would die of plague. China was the hotspot for trade and dominated the global market. European countries could never trade a good valuable enough to satisfy Asia, at least until the discovery of the New World. The conquest of the Americas was the kickstart key to Europe's eventual domination of the world. The Americas provided the European powers with new resources which would bring Europe an economic advantage. Silver mined from Peru was able to be traded to the Chinese. Porcelain became an incredibly wealthy commodity. If the Americas were never there to provide such silver or resources, Europe never would have gained the trade advantage over China. The resources collected from the New World and brought back to Europe basically energized the continent. Competition for land in the Americas grew. The European countries built up their forces and technology to get a one-up on each other, which helped lead to innovation. Without the Americas, the changing markets and growth of empire which spurred the Industrial Revolution never would have occurred, at least as soon as it did, and so technology today could potentially be much more in the past. But what about the rest of the world? Well, without colonization of the Americas, there never would have been a demand for African slaves, which meant that slavery never would have occurred on the massive scale it did, if at all. Yes, the US wouldn't exist, but since global events would change anyway, it's pretty useless to say how things would be different without it.